Welcome to Cheong Fatt Tze Mansion. I'll do a kind of historical introduction to this house. It encapsulates the early rags to riches story of the migrants to this country. Cheong Fatt Tze started off as a 16-year-old, leaving China with nothing but the clothes on his back. He then became, over time, a man who has been called China's last Mandarin and first capitalist. He's also been called the Rockefeller of the East, a name actually given to him by the New York Times in New York, at a time that he was actually trying to start an international bank between China and the States. By the time this man passed away, British and Dutch authorities actually asked for flags to be lowered to half-mast to commemorate his life. And here in Penang, he chose to build the most beautiful of the many houses he had in the region. Okay, lovely. We are in probably the loveliest part of the house. This is the largest of the 5 courtyards that we have. There are 2 on that side, 2 on the other side. This is called the central main courtyard. And it is completely feng shui driven. If I was doing a feng shui introduction for you, I'd tell you all about the feng shui here, but this was an amazing point. Now, imagine yourself that Cheong Fatt Tze would have employed the best feng shui master, #1 of the day, before he began everything. The feng shui master would have carried something the Chinese call a lo pan, which is a feng shui compass. He would have calculated everything before he started. Let me just give you a couple of examples to whet your appetite about feng shui. The 4 corners have sets of columns. This is called in Hokkien Si Tiam Kim, which translates directly as the 4 points of gold, because gold would actually have been buried under each of these corners before they began construction. It is to ensure continuing wealth and prosperity for the family. The center of this courtyard is definitive. The feng shui master would have actually located what we call the chi point. This is the chi point, the power point, the center of the focus and energy of the house. The house is beautifully symmetrical from here. If any of you actually believe in any of this or practice any qigong, come here, because there is amazing qi. We have had feng shui masters here who will tell you that their fingertips tingle, they can feel the heat coming from the point. In-house guests will do their meditation, their yoga, their qigong here in the morning because the qi is beautifully strong in the morning. The Chinese like their homes, offices, even their graves to be sited on what we call sitting off the dragon's back. In Hokkien, it's called Jay Suan Kwa Hai, or to really sitting off the dragon's back. It is to face the sea, to have hills behind for protection, and to be on a little incline or a little slope. Well, hills, you're on an island, everywhere you face is hills. It's the sea. Hills are behind. How do you sit on a slope? Have any of you noticed this? Nope. Yes. Have you noticed the courtyard has 2 steps where you are? It's got 3 steps here. If you look upstairs, the floor has actually been lifted higher so that that floor is higher than this floor. So if you actually get to the rear of the house, you are actually much higher than the beginning of the house, giving you the sitting off the dragon's back. I mean, it's amazing. And this is Indigo, our in-house restaurant. Indigo, obviously, the name was chosen as per the color of the house. It's a fine dining restaurant with basically a Western, menu, but with many special Asian influences in the menu. We have maximum capacity 100, comfortably. And during, the pandemic, of course, with SOPs, we've managed to actually space everybody out. But soon, we'll be able to accommodate up to full capacity. It's wonderful for private very private celebrations. So some of the wonderful events, of course, have been weddings and birthday parties, etc. In 2019, one of the most memorable events was something called Within Indigo Walls. And it was based on a film that was an in-house film that was actually done highlighting the house in a non-traditional fashion. And we had a day that was open for Penang nights. People who had never been to the house or who wanted to enjoy the house you just had to sign up. And we had huge numbers. In fact, it was closer to like 1,000 people signed up. And we had them come in throughout. They signed up for particular times of the day because the house cannot handle that number of people. But over the day of 8 hours, 1,000 people came through the house. And of course, since the pandemic, every hotel has had to relook at its customer profile. And now we're doing things which are for the Malaysian public. And things, for example, like when people were very nervous when we first reopened, you could have a private dinner in a bedroom. So you take a bedroom and then we serve you a course by course, wonderful private dinner, and people love that. It's that kind of difference that we're trying to offer now to cater to everybody's sense of safety. Virtual events are certainly with high-speed internet service available in the whole house. This can be done very, very easily. And we see a lot more, take up on this as time goes on. People do want to do these events. Actually, when we finished the restoration, the big question arose, how do we then use the house? I think in those days, people did not think about boutique hotels or Airbnbs. It's something that's only been done today. There seemed to be many people came with proposals of how we could reuse this house. None of it seemed right. To us, it is something that for my husband and myself, to retain what is called the spirit of place became very important. When I say spirit of place, I do not mean ghosts. There are no ghosts in the house, by the way. Spirit of place means that you must reuse that old building in a way that is right. We could have turned it into a karaoke lounge or whatever, which would be totally wrong. Even people came up with suggestions of how about a little commercial center. So you have shops. Each one of the rooms could be shops, for example. None of it seemed correct. Finally, we came up with this idea where a homestay, in those days there was not even the word Airbnb, where people could sleep, where people could celebrate life's events, where people could enjoy something that seemed almost like a home. And so now what we have here are 18, what we call upmarket, hotel. We have a beautiful restaurant called Indigo. We have a cafe and a coffee house called Mangar, and there are beautiful courtyard places where people have, weddings. We have a landscape garden with swimming pool where people exchange their wedding vows. It's all very beautiful, But there is a big but here. This is all the same way that Cheong Fatt Tze and his very extended big family would have enjoyed the house. People would have eaten, slept, celebrated life's events like weddings, like birthdays, anniversaries. And the most beautiful thing about this house is that when you are here, it feels right. It doesn't feel like you're intruding into something, that doesn't quite fit. So these are some of the ways that the house is experienced and enjoyed. We basically cater to your particular need. We try very much to do that. So come, enjoy the house, immerse yourself in this wonderful blue mansion. And really, we hope to see you one day. Bye.